Visual design principles inform us how design elements like line, shape, color, grid, etc. go together to create well-rounded and thoughtful visuals. Designs that take advantage of these principles can drive engagement and increase usability. So let's talk about a commonly used principle that makes certain parts of your design stand out to your users, and that's contrast. The visual design principle of contrast refers to the juxtaposition of two visually different elements. So my favorite way to think about this is when your eyes notice the difference between two objects, and that difference emphasizes that they are distinct. This distinction could mean that they belong in different categories, have different functions, behave differently, etc. Now, this principle is often applied through color. So, for example, you may have noticed that red is frequently used in UI designs, especially on iOS, to signify deleting. The bright color signals to users that a red element is different from the other elements. Now, that's a prime example of contrast. You may be wondering how contrast and accessibility relate. In UX, the word contrast often brings to mind the contrast between text and its background. Sometimes designers deliberately decrease the contrast for text in order to make it less noticeable, because it may actually be less important text. But this approach is dangerous and could reduce legibility. A word of advice: always use a color contrast checker to ensure that your content can still be read by all your target users. I personally really like using accessiblecolors.com, but any tool that gives you a contrast ratio is good to use. The visual principle of contrast is important, and when used well can help create thoughtful visuals and designs.